Let's continue this conversation with former U.S. Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos. It's great to see you, Madam Secretary. Staying on the Supreme Court, if we can, the Supreme Court case, here is that defense given by the attorney representing the county about why they no longer want to offer parents the option to opt out. Listen.
The county had an opt-out, you said. Every other school board in the country has opt-outs for all sorts of things. The county has opt-outs for all sorts of things. The other Maryland counties have opt-outs for all sorts of things. And yet for this one thing, they changed in mid-year and say no more opt-outs. I'm just not understanding feasibility.
So again, I think what's in the record is that with respect to these books as they were deployed in the classroom, there was high absenteeism in some schools.
So, Madam Secretary, too many absences indicating parents rejected this GovEd perversion. So address the teaching of these sexual themes at wildly inappropriate ages, forcing kids to endure it, and then why this underscores the need for education freedom and school choice across the country.
Sure. Well, Chris, I mean, this is a fundamental issue. Who gets to raise children? Is it the parents or government-run, union-controlled schools? And it seems that the Supreme Court has consistently sided on the side of parents, and I'm quite confident they're going to continue to do so. But again, this material is just inappropriate for children, and what these parents are asking for is not censorship. They're just asking to not have their children exposed to it and to have them somewhere else if this is part of the curriculum and going to be taught. But the real issue here is if parents are their child's primary educator, the solution to these problems is to give parents the ability to truly opt out and to take their children to a school or education setting that's going to match their family's values, including the resources that are going to be expended on that child. That would be true education freedom, and it would address this issue and the others like it in a way that solves it for everyone.
Right, and this Maryland county proving what a lot of GovEd has already proven to all of us, that they're an enemy of parents, an enemy of our children. Yesterday, the Trump administration announcing it will again begin collecting payments for defaulted college loans. Under the plan, the federal government will garnish wages from some of these borrowers. Why do you think it's become such a foreign concept in the education ranks that if you take out a loan, you pay it back?
Well, Chris, of course, this goes back to when COVID hit. And early on in COVID, the payment provisions for student loans were paused. The Biden administration continued to extend those and carry those on forward. And in fact, President Biden tried to actually change the definition of what a loan was, much like he tried to change the definition of sex under Title IX. The Supreme Court would have nothing of it. He tried to continue to get away with it. He clearly tried to influence political outcomes by making promises he knew he could not keep because they were patently illegal. And so it is time for students, over 5 million who are in arrears or behind on their payments, to begin paying again, because it's the taxpayers that are going to be on the hook for them if they don't pay them. And they took out loans knowing well what a loan is, and that's a requirement to pay back money that you've borrowed.
Yeah, we call them students, folks, but these are grown adults who entered into a contract and they knew exactly, and they got the services, they took the money, now they don't want to pay it back. Madam Secretary, last question. In the middle of all of this, there's a huge debate about Ivy League universities, so-called higher education, with multi-billion-dollar endowments receiving billions in taxpayer dollars. Harvard, for example, wants our money, but doesn't want to comply with the rules set down by the people that we elected. It's simple economics. The reason tuitions are so high is because taxpayer dollars are flowing to these so-called institutions of higher learning. Shouldn't all taxpayer dollars stop flowing to these colleges and universities? And that way, they can make up their own rules and they won't have to answer to anybody.
Well, I think that's a very good question, and I think it is among many others that need to be asked and debated. Higher ed is really, generally speaking, in crisis. And part of that has been fed by this continued nonstop flow of funds from taxpayers at the federal level into uncapped student lending in many cases, especially for graduate programs. And there's lots of evidence that for every additional dollar that's flowed out, tuition has been raised by at least 60 cents or more. And so this is among the fundamental issues that higher ed at writ large is facing. And Harvard happens to be at the center of the maelstrom, but it is really I think a much broader issue, and the issue of the value of a higher ed degree really needs to be discussed and debated in a new way, because we know for many students,
yes,
the programs they've taken have not panned out for them in the real world and in the marketplace. Well, it's not right or fair for taxpayers to pay for those programs for students who then can't pay them back. So there's a whole lot of issues that fall under the rubric of higher education, and I'm pleased to see that Secretary McMahon and President Trump are really taking these on in meaningful ways.
Former Education Secretary Betsy DeVos, always a pleasure catching up with you, lady. Come back soon. Thank you. You know, folks, I thank God for my wonderful wife, my kids, my country, the greatest nation ever. And Americans like you who believe in the truth, the Chris Salcedo Show will never stop fighting for you.
The Chris Salcedo Show, for the news you need to know.